Greetings, lovely peeps. Welcome one and all to Haunted Journey Tarot. I'm Lil. I'm back. It's been a while. Life has been lifing. 2026 has been 2026ing. And when I first started this channel a few months ago, I've got to be honest, I was just so keen to get stuck in and nerd out about my decks and join in with all the cool VRs and the amazing tarot community. And I didn't really stop to think ever so hard about how on earth I was going to fit all that in around a full-time job and running a podcast, which is kind of another full-time job. And this year, myself and my partner decided to rip up our lawn and put in a vegetable garden, which has been another whole adventure. Currently very rewarding if you like cucumber and courgettes. We have them coming out of our ears. Has anybody else done a garden this year? So anyway, but I'm back resurrecting this channel because Sil over at the Whimsy Witch recently did an incredible tag called Summerween Decks, and I could not wait to get into this. I am definitely, as you can probably see from the obnoxiously loud backdrop here, I am definitely on a Summerween kick this year. Partly that's Asda's fault because they had some pretty cool Summerween homeware demonstrated right here, which I did treat myself to a couple of things from. Partly, I discovered that Summerween actually came, well, the term Summerween apparently came from the show Gravity Falls. So I've been catching up on that. I can't believe I've never come across it before, but I'm very late to the party. I haven't got to the Summerween episode yet, but I will soon, I'm sure. And also, when Sil started going through the prompts, I just had light bulb moments for so many of the decks, particularly the first one, and another new to me but oldie but goodie deck that's come into my collection recently that I was just so excited about. So without further ado, let's get stuck into the 13 prompts of Summerween decks. So prompt number 1, the Solstice Scare, a deck with bright imagery but creepy undertones. And I knew straight away it could only be one. It is the Wicked Moon Tarot. Now, Sil showed the Under the Oak Tarot, and some people, well, quite a lot of people, have drawn some similarities between the Wicked Moon Tarot and the Under the Oak Tarot. They're not the same artists or creators, and it's not like the artwork's the same or anything like that. It's just a very similar vibe. And bright imagery but creepy undertones is right. And it's funny as well because I bought this deck only just a little bit before Sil did the tarot tag Summerween decks, specifically for a solstice trip, a summer solstice trip to a very weird and spooky location. Basically, every summer solstice, my partner and I go to Rendlesham Forest, which is notoriously weird, spooky, haunted. There's UFOs, there's cryptids, there's all sorts of stuff going on. And I have read tarot there before. And what I found was the more serious kind of a deck I took, the less answers I got. Whereas if I took a really playful, whimsical deck, I would get better responses from whatever it is in the forest that I was talking to. They just seem to enjoy a bit of whimsy. And there's a lot of whimsy in this deck. It reminds me of like a kind of a 70s cartoon show that I might have watched as a kid. Oh, this death card. This death card is probably my favourite death card that I have in any of my tarot collections so far. It's incredible. But there are some there are some quite weird undertones to this deck in places. I love this devil as well. Such a good devil. So we've got a lot of partying going on. We've got a lot of festivals and celebrations, which is perfect for the solstice. But then also you've got all these people in masks and headdresses. And I'm going to try and find some more for you. There's one character with like a sack over his head. We've got burning pitchforks going on. We've got hunts or chases in the forest on what looks like the black shuck, which is amazing. I love that. Right, let's find some more. Yeah, we've got these incredible costumes, which are very cool. It's quite seasonal as well. So there are some wintry cards in here because the suits do move through the seasons. but I still find it really perfect for a summer solstice deck. Maybe just because that's what I bought it for. Let's try and find, oh, here we are. Like, what's going on there? What? I love this character that's just got a bag over his head. But yeah, there's all kinds of masks and bonfires, and oh, this character in the back with the antlers. Incredible. There's at once this kind of nostalgia and also a little bit of sinister kind of, but what's around the next corner? What's going to happen? I mean, the Ten of Swords is a feast, a big feast around the table, which at first you think, oh, well, that's lovely. What a nice version of the Ten of Swords. But then the part of my brain that's watched too many horror movies just goes, but who's the sacrifice? Oh, I love this hermit as well. All the stuff and the bits and pieces that he's got under his robe there. It's just, oh, it's amazing. So yeah, I had to choose the Wickerboon Tarot. I read one review of this deck that said it was like a children's TV program of the Wicker Man. I just think that's so perfect. It's not. I think it's only sinister if you're a grown-up and you've watched too many horror movies. But you know, I have. So I mean, look at this. Yeah, perfect for bright, but with some slightly creepy undertones. Prompt number 2. Campfire Ghost Stories, your most nostalgic, classic or indie horror deck. So, I don't have many decks that are nostalgic that would be applicable to this tag that I've had for a long time, because although I've been reading tarot for quite a while now, I had just the same few decks for years and years before I really started expanding my collection. But I have picked for this the Darkwoods Tarot. I mean, I know we all know this, so partly it's just, yeah, it definitely fits that sort of classic horror deck, and I do feel like it is a really good horror deck because it covers so many sort of classic horror tropes, for want of a better word. Tropes isn't exactly the best word. Archetypes, horror archetypes, that would perhaps be better. And I feel like there's a sense of nostalgia to this deck because I love Abigail Larson's artwork, absolutely adore it. I can't wait for her and Sasha Graham are doing another new deck this year, aren't they? A vampire one, which I haven't seen that they are yet, but I'm desperately hoping they bring it out in the mini because I've got this in the mini. And I do use that quite a lot. I love a good mini deck. But yeah, Abigail Larson's artwork always reminds me a little bit of watching Disney films as a kid. And actually, you know, quite a lot of Disney films, especially the older ones, they could be a bit dark. Not perhaps into the realms of horror, but they definitely had a little bit of darkness going on. So yeah, I love this for sort of classic horror nostalgia. It reminds me of just watching Disney movies, and I think we didn't really think back then too much about the fact that there were some quite dark themes going on in Disney. They occurred with quite alarming regularity, actually, in quite a lot of children's TV. Don't think we thought much about it at the time, but probably it has coloured who I've become as an adult, maybe. So yeah, love this deck for our prompt number 2. Prompt number 3, Beach Body Horror, a deck that heavily features anatomical, monster or creature art. And I'm going to share, again, all these are mass market decks that you can get. A lot of them you'll have had for years. Classics is the Zombie Tarot. I don't think you can get much more anatomical body horror than the Zombie Tarot. Now this is very new to my collection, and when I say very new, I mean literally the other day it came in. It's been on my list for absolutely ages, ever since I saw Kelly Bear share it a long time ago now, and it just was never the deck I needed in the moment. Oh, this 8 of Wands, guys, I used to play roller derby, so anytime I see a card with roller skates in it, I just lose my little mind with happiness. So yeah, that was a bonus I didn't realise was in there. But yes, it's been on my list for ages, and it was just never the deck I kind of needed in the moment. I was sort of waiting for it to go on sale, and then the other day on Amazon it was reduced by quite a significant amount. So I grabbed it while I had the opportunity, because I was feeling very in the mood for a kind of slightly apocalyptic kind of deck to just match my mood in the news. Because sometimes you want pure escapism, and that's fine, and then sometimes you just kind of want a deck that reflects how you feel about what's happening in the world. and that's quite a good reflection. So yeah, the zombie tarot I think is perfect for this. Bit of body horror, a bit of creatures, not quite monsters. Well, I don't know, do zombies count as monsters because they're from humans? Is that a different thing? I mean, humans are quite monstrous sometimes, aren't they? Look at this Six of Swords. This really tickles my fancy. I've done some quite good. I wasn't sure how this was going to read, to be honest. That was the other reason that I hadn't picked it up yet, because as much as I love the artwork, I just didn't know how it was going to read, because personally I don't look at these. There's a lot of these I look at and I'm not getting immediately that kind of RWS hit. I mean, it's definitely there, like if you look for it, it's there, but I do often tend to go for decks where there's kind of a gut read, like an immediate, and that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be RWS. I've got quite a lot of pip decks and quite a lot of decks that whilst they're pip decks, they don't seem to have anything to do with the RWS, but for some reason they give me a kind of instinctive hit. I don't really get that with this deck, to be honest, but I was just in the mood, in the frame of mind, that I just wanted it for the artwork, if nothing else. And what I've been doing so far is just kind of reading it more like an oracle deck to get to know it. So I've just been doing a card a day, reading the book, and using it that way. But I have to say, doing it that way, the reads have been bang on. It's been really interesting. I've been very much enjoying it. And I figure, you know, the more I do that, just sort of daily reads with it as an oracle, I'll get to know it, and I'll probably start getting those intuitive hits. So that is our prompt number 3, the Zombie Tarot. Prompt number 4, Midnight Bioluminescence, a deck with dark backgrounds and glowing, vibrant highlights. What an incredible prompt. And I was kind of jealous that Sil did I think it was the Mushroom Tarot, or the Mushroom Spirit. I always forget the name of it. I have it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful deck. And I adore the artwork, that just kind of glow that the artist's artwork has to it. It's just perfect. So I was struggling a bit to think what to do for this. And then I remembered that it was just after Halloween, I bought the Necronomicon Tarot in a tin and was really, really surprised by it. It's an Insight Editions deck. We all know they can be a bit hit and miss. They can be a bit pippy, and I'm not generally that into pippy decks. And also I felt like a bit of a fraud, because it's not that I don't like H.P. Lovecraft work, but to be honest, I'm a terrible horror fan. I really haven't read that many of his books or his works, short stories or whatever. So yeah, I felt like I'm a bit of a fraud getting it. But I saw a few flip throughs and I just really, really enjoyed the artwork. And I felt like even if you're not an H.P. Lovecraft fan, so much of the artwork, again, a bit like the Darkwoods Tarot, it encompasses so many horror movie tropes, archetypes, you know, stuff that you can relate to even if you haven't read the books. And yeah, the artwork is spectacular. It's also a really good little tarot in a tin. It's got like a padded, it's not just a tin where it rattles around, like it's got padding in there. And it's got the tiniest wee little book with full colour illustrations in here. And I think I remember reading it's got like a whole backstory in the front, like a little kind of mini story, short story about how this deck came into creation, and it was just a lot of fun to read. And I was really surprised how well it read, even though I know nothing about the H.P. Lovecraft universe or anything like that. It even came with like an elastic instead of just a paper band. It's a really well put together deck. So I'm going to bring you up a bit so you can see. But this deck definitely has that kind of dark background, glowing bioluminescent colours, and it's just unfortunately by the time I got this, we were kind of through the Halloween season, and I didn't get as much of a chance to read with it as I wanted. I think it went on sale. I definitely got it on sale, and that's part of the reason I committed rather than just leaving it on the wish list. But it was kind of, I think it went on sale because it was basically Halloween was over. And I mean, I like to extend Halloween pretty much into Christmas, but I think it kind of was almost into Christmas. And I was swapping over to my sort of Yuletide Christmassy decks at that point. So I read with it a bit and I was really pleasantly surprised. It proved to be a really awesome, interesting reader. And despite the fact that these cards are really tiny, on some of the tiny decks, I do find that the colours are a bit dark, and then because you've got small cards as well, it can be really difficult to see what's going on. I absolutely don't find that with this deck at all. I find the images, just the way the artwork is, the type of artwork it is, and it's been reproduced very well. Like, the colours are very clear. You can absolutely see what's going on. And it's not even that difficult to handle, to be honest. The cardstock, it's not really, really thin. It's not like the Llewellyn mini decks. They are quite a little bit thinner than this, I reckon. It's not super thick and cardboardy either. It's kind of somewhere in between. I think it's a little bit sturdier than the Llewellyn decks, and obviously you've got the beautiful tin to keep it in, which really helps. So this is a magnificent travel deck to have. And yeah, I love a deck with a dark background. I really do. It's one of the reasons that the Raven's Prophecy is one of my favourite decks, which was my other choice for this one, but this just is more Halloweeny. Absolutely love it. Oh look, we'll end with, I think, is that Cthulhu? Correct me if I'm wrong. Apologies if I've got that, if I've mistaken. Prompt number 5. Abandoned Boardwalk. Now, I grew up thinking that a boardwalk was the same thing as a pier, and that's basically because the only time I'd come across the word boardwalk was when I was a sort of teenager and I was reading the point horror books. I'm sure there was one that was called like Haunted Boardwalk or Boardwalk Horror. I can't remember, but it was something to do with a boardwalk. And this is, pre-internet, dating myself here, but I just assumed it was a pier because it was near the sea. And I think the only difference actually is that a boardwalk runs along the shoreline and a pier sticks out into the sea. But we're going with haunted pier, so it's kind of abandoned boardwalk adjacent. I am sorry, Sil, I'm changing it slightly. We're going with haunted pier because the deck I want to choose for this was the Knight-Waite Tarot Deck. Now, we've got some haunted piers near, well, I'm in the East Midlands, so my nearest seaside is the East Coast. And there's some town, specifically Cromer, if you've ever been to Cromer, there are some ghost stories about the theatre that is at the end of the pier. It's quite an old theatre. It's got quite a few ghosts. I keep meaning to do an episode on it for my podcast. I will get around to it one day. And there's some really fascinating ghost stories associated with that theatre. So I want to do... So I've actually changed the prompt even more, haven't I? I've gone from abandoned boardwalk to haunted pier theatre. But I just basically wanted to show off this deck. I love this deck. Oh my goodness, it reads so well. It's not my favourite to shuffle, I have to say. It's a bit tricky for me. I've got kind of janky hands and painful wrists, and this is a bit of a chonker. It's not the easiest to shuffle, but I put up with it because I love it so dearly. But basically, in this deck, we've got lots of people. Well, so we've got some real movie stars and starlets and all sorts in here, but we've also got a lot of the other characters, like this. This is some of these cards in this deck are real people. They're based on real people. Some of them aren't. Well, I mean, they're photos, Lil. So obviously they are real people, but we don't know who they are. They're anonymous real people. Get it together, Lil. But they're in costumes. A lot of them, like this Page of Wands, is in armour. So it always makes me think when I'm going through this deck about old-fashioned theatre productions, because so many of them are wearing these amazing costumes. And some of the costumes are quite stunning and elaborate. and some of the costumes are more like they've like amateur dramatic costumes that you know your mum put together for the local theatre group. They're kind of made out of curtains, but honestly I love them all equally. Like this Page of Cups, does that not look to you like a 1930s amateur dramatic society costume made out of an old bedsheet? Perhaps I'm being really harsh, but I think it's wonderful. I adore looking through the costumes of this deck, and it's actually just made me think of a tarot tag I could do another time about costumes in tarot decks. That would be fun, wouldn't it? But yes, so the Knight-Waite Tarot, whoops, is my pick for abandoned boardwalk that I have turned into haunted pier, that I have turned into haunted theatre at the end of a pier. Yes, we'll just, yeah, let's get on with it. Prompt number 6, Tropical Haunting, a deck featuring nature, lush greenery or animal spirits. And I nearly came unstuck on this one because I thought, well, I've got so many nature decks. They were the first sort of deck I started buying before I kind of expanded into any other areas. I must have a kind of a lush greenery animal spirits deck. And it turns out I actually don't, which is, I think I need to remedy with a few more decks. What a shame. But then I remembered, of course, that this is a Halloween, Summerween themed tag, so we are really looking for something a little bit spooky if possible, and I do have that in a nature deck, and it is the Bloodlands Oracle, a really, really perfect nature deck even for the spooky season. This is by Amory Abbott, and I always think this looks more like a black metal album than it does a deck. Does this not look like a black metal CD digipack? And in fact, when I read Amory Abbott's website, this kind of was a bit inspired by a more modern version of black metal movement called, I think it was like Pacific black metal or something. That doesn't sound right, but basically there's a new black metal bands that are inspired by the landscape of like the Pacific Northwest, which is really cool, and you know, less problematic than a lot of the old black metal bands, thankfully. So that's really cool. But anyway, I digress. This is a perfect landscape deck with just a little bit of a spooky Halloweeny vibe to it. Let's just put that down. These cards are a bit heavy. I love Amory Abbott's charcoal artwork. Now, I read on his website, because somebody said on the Amazon review that they thought it was just photographs that were kind of had a filter put over them. It's not. No, it's Amory Abbott is an artist. He teaches art. And although these aren't done with real charcoal, they're drawn by hand, but digitally in a charcoal style. So I love that. This deck I got actually for reading landscapes, because I like to go to spooky, haunted places, and I like to read the energy of the land and talk to the land spirits and any ghosts that might be there, that kind of thing, through the cards. And I got this for that, because how perfect to get a landscape deck to talk to the landscape. And it did work really well. But of course I also want to read it, use it to read for myself, because the artwork is incredible. And it does read really well for myself as well. The only thing I've noticed though is that in the guidebook there's an upright and a reversed meaning. And weirdly, what I found is that when I'm reading a landscape, the upright meaning usually hits the mark. But when I started reading for myself, I found the upright reading just wasn't resonating at all. But when I read the reversed, that was bang on. And that seems to have been, just for me, consistent, that if I'm reading for a landscape, I'll take the upright meaning. If I'm reading for myself, I'll take the reversed reading. I don't know what that's about, but that's what I found. So either way, it's a spectacular deck. The artwork is just gorgeous. I love it so much. And yeah, really, really worthwhile deck to get. And a perfect kind of spooky nature deck for Summerween. Prompt number 7, Autumn in July. A cosy traditional Halloween deck used out of season. Now, this prompt is the other reason that I just had to get on this tag, because at about the same time it came out, I had a particular deck in my virtual shopping basket, and it was a bit of a journey. I'll get to it in a minute. And I don't think I'd necessarily call this a cozy traditional Halloween deck, but it was the Autumn in July part that got me. It's the Jack-o'-lantern tarot that I've picked for this tag. And the reason I've had this in my wish list for ages, and the reason I didn't get it for a long time was because it felt too summery. Like, it literally didn't feel autumnal enough to me, which is funny now. But of course that makes it perfect for Autumn in July. It's definitely got the Halloween vibes going on, but if you look at a lot of the cards, they are quite summery. Like in this card and in a lot of the other cards, there's this kind of really green, verdant parkland going on behind them. It almost seems like all these scenes are taken outside of a stately home or in the parkland of some stately home. And I know this is a particular art style because it is referenced in the Los Scarabeo Little White Book. I'm not familiar with the art style because I'm a bit of a heathen, but I love it. I think it's perfect. But yeah, for a long time I looked at this deck and thought, I love how weird and wonderful and kooky it is. All these, again, some of the costumes. This will be in my costumes tag for when I make it. All the costumes that are going on. Look at this guy's shirt with his with his beak. I love it. But yeah, a lot of them, the trees are green, the grass is green, there's leaves sprouting everywhere. I was like, this doesn't feel like autumn to me. What's going on? But it does feel like Halloween in July. Perfectly so, I think. So I had this deck in my basket because it went on sale. And it's been on my wish list for absolutely ages. And I ummed and ahed because I really shouldn't have been buying another deck at that point of the month. And I left it for a day. I was like, just kind of leave it for a day, cool off, think about it. Do you really need this deck? And then the next day I went back and checked my basket and they had gone out of stock, and I was devastated. Don't you hate when that happens? When you're like, no, I'm going to try and be sensible and I will not buy the thing. And then you go back the next day and they've gone, and you just think, you're just crushed, absolutely crushed. And to make matters worse, I then was looking up just more about this deck. I was kind of looking into it. I was grieving the loss of my bargain. And I found out that it's actually gone out of print. Like literally this year, it's gone out of print. So the remaining copies out there are presumably the remaining copies out there, unless they do another run. But there was no indication to say they were going to do that, just that they've stopped printing. And I was like, oh no, I can't believe it. I had the opportunity to get it on sale and I missed it. And now I'm going to be looking at paying a ridiculous amount for it on eBay because it's gone out of print anyway. And then, miracle of miracles, I checked literally, I'm not even kidding, 2 hours later, and another seller had it up for the same price, brand new. And yeah, I didn't hesitate that time. My clicky finger was ready for it. I just pressed purchase, and yeah, I'm really happy. I'm loving this deck. It's reading so well, and I just feel it's the perfect summery Halloween deck. You've got the greens and the lovely blue skies, but also, the pumpkins and the spooky characters going on. It's brilliant. I love it. Halloween in July. Prompt number 8, Cabin in the Woods, a deck with heavy woodcut illustration or rustic vibes. So the deck I've picked, it doesn't have woodcut illustrations as such, but it always reminds me of woodcut illustrations, and it definitely does have a rustic vibe. And that is the Lost Oracle by Fiona Horn. I adore this deck. It's one of those decks that has felt like home ever since I got it. I can just sink into it somehow. And look at the backs. Oh, just the backs are incredible. And the colours of the cards, they're all actually different colours, very much on a theme. But I actually love that. I don't normally like it when you end up with different coloured decks. Say if you've like the little Maya Toll decks, I've mixed a few of them together and you end up with different backs, and it usually irritates me. But with this, for some reason, I don't know why, I just enjoy the texture that kind of brings to the deck. I do feel like these illustrations, they kind of just, they just remind me of woodcuts. And I think they're just so beautiful. This is a really supportive deck. When I first saw some of the artwork and some of the keywords, I was a little bit worried that it might be a bit mean, a bit kind of like one of those decks that kicks your ass a little bit, and it's not been like that at all. I found it to be a really supportive deck, a really insightful deck. It's not had much of an airing this year because it really does feel like quite a seasonal deck to me. I don't know why, because I mean, I could quite happily use this all year round, but I think what it is just that there's only, is it 36 cards? 36 cards. So it's not a huge deck. And with decks that only have 36 cards, sometimes I feel like I don't want to use them too much because I might start getting the same cards over and over again and kind of almost like wear them out. Not physically, I mean like in my head, kind of wear out the idea, and I don't want to because I love this deck so much. It's so evocative for me. But yeah, I tend to get this out just at the end of summer, first days of September, as we're kind of starting to think about autumn, and then basically all the way through autumn into winter. I kind of only put it away once we get to Christmas, because for me, November isn't just an extension of Halloween. November is the time when I start watching all the M.R. James adaptations, because that kind of, for me, bridges the gap between Halloween into Christmas. So November is M.R. James adaptations month. But yeah, this deck kind of sees me through to Christmas, and I adore it. And I think it's perfect for woodcut vibes, rustic vibes, creepy cabin in the woods. Prompt number 9, The Final Girl. And really, I could never have outdone Syl's choice of the Buffy tarot on this one. But I love a bit of Final Girl energy. And for this, I have picked the Cowgirls and Aliens deck, because, sorry, Aliens Oracle, the Cowgirls and Aliens Oracle, if I can even speak, because I really do feel like this has got Final Girl energy. So the prompt is a deck that feels empowering, resilient, and highly survival focused. And I think this definitely is that. A lot of the archetypes in here are very much powerful, independent, survivors. And I surprised myself by buying this deck, because from the outside, like it looks very pink and fluffy. I'm not a particularly pink and fluffy girl at all, but this deck is so empowering. I know it's got aliens in it, so obviously there's a lot of diversity in that way, but through the artwork, there's a lot of diversity I feel represented here. I love the inclusion of the aliens, and this is probably my favourite card, the Mountain Woman. I'm capable, independent, and will rely on myself. And sometimes I just need that from a deck. I just need that whimsical, playful, but also really empowering and strong kind of message from a card. And despite, don't let the pink and fluffiness of this deck fool you. It's actually quite insightful. It's like having, a cross between a therapist and a little best friend in your pocket. I do break this out on days when I just need a bit of a lift, a bit of a reassurance from a deck that I am capable, and I am strong, and I can do this, and I can survive the final boss battle, because I'm sensible enough to not just go running off into the woods, in the first 5 minutes of a horror movie. I'm the girl in real life who has packed an axe and will be able to hack their way out of the haunted cabin to escape the rampaging psychopath. Like, I literally am that girl. But sometimes, we all need a little reminder of that, don't we? And you could do a lot worse than the Cowgirls and Aliens Oracle to remind you of that. Prompt number 10. Black Flame Candle, a deck that heavily features witchcraft, potions or spells. Now, I thought this would be such a shoo-in because I have a lot of witchy, well, I thought I had a lot of witchy decks, but none of them really feature sort of potions and spells as much as I really genuinely thought they would. And if they do, they're very much more sort of spring, green witchery decks. And I don't have that many that have that kind of lovely, spooky deliciousness to them, except Seasons of the Witch Oracle, Samhain Oracle, which is actually one of my earlier Oracle decks. Again, like I said before, I've been reading tarot and, well, cards generally for quite some time now, but I just started off with like a couple of decks. And it was quite a long time before I really started just kind of collecting decks. And this is one of the earlier ones. I mean, you'll have all seen this, but it doesn't ever get any less gorgeous. I mean, the gilding. It's held up pretty well, considering, to be honest. But this is definitely, I feel, at least got that black flame candle vibe to it. There's so much wonderful witchery, spellcasting, potion brewing, cauldron stirring wonderfulness to it. Now, this deck actually doesn't come out that often because it lives on one of my altars. I use it for a very specific practice. So, unfortunately, this doesn't tend to get used as a Samhain deck. I use it all year round, which I suppose is better in a way, but just for a very specific practice. It just spoke to that practice not long after I got it, and it stayed that way. But it has made me, because of that reason, because I don't tend to actually break it out of Samhain and use it as a Samhain deck, it's made me very tempted to get the new expanded special edition box set version of the Samhain Oracle that the Seasons of the Witch crew are bringing out this year. Have you seen the previews? Has anybody seen the previews? Let me know down below. What do you think? Are you tempted? I wasn't. When I first heard that they were coming out with another version of it, I just thought, I don't need another one, you know, for goodness sake. If this was like a 36 card deck, yes, I would be desperate to get my hands on it because I do like at least over 40 cards. But I think this is 44 or 45, so, you know, it's a decent sized deck anyway. And I didn't think I was wanting for anything in this deck until recently, the other day on Instagram. I saw, I think this is Rockpool, is it? I saw a Rockpool, yeah, it's Rockpool. I saw a Rockpool preview of the special edition deck, and I was like, oh no, that actually looks amazing. And then, but then cause I don't know, see, potentially, but then would I actually use the special edition deck as a Samhain deck, or would I not, because this deck has been so tied up in one particular practice for so long? Would I just not feel the same about it? I don't know. But the new box set is so pretty, and there's extra cards, and I think there's actually quite a few extra cards as well. So I may caveat. I think it depends how many other new, cool, amazing decks come out at Halloween this year, because autumn is quite a big time for new decks to come out, isn't it? And I may find that there are so many, you know, I just have to be very, very picky. We'll see. I'm not ruling it out though, so that is my black flame candle choice. Prompt number 11. No, I'm not going to try and count that for you on my fingers. Also, if you've noticed the lights changed a bit, I'm sorry. I had to pause my recording to go and eat my dinner, which my partner had very kindly prepared for me. And also, while I was away, I did check up on that thing I was waffling about when I was telling you about the Bloodlands Oracle. It's Cascadian black metal. That was the word I couldn't remember the name for, and it is inspired by the mountains even of the Pacific Northwest, as is the artwork of the Bloodlands Oracle by Amory Abbott. So I'm glad I could check that for you. Get that right. But anyway, back to our prompts. Prompt number 11, Humidity Nightmare, a deck with hazy, blurry, melting or dreamlike watercolour illustrations. I don't actually have many watercolour decks, which is a shame because I adore watercolours. But for a spooky vibe, I definitely could think of one deck with hazy and dreamlike illustrations, and that is the Murder of Crows Tarot. I know I've shown this recently, but as far as hazy and dreamlike goes, I can't think of much of a better deck than this. Although I suppose dreamlike or nightmarish. The choice is yours. But they definitely do feel a bit hazy, a bit not quite there, a bit dreamlike. And yeah, Humidity Nightmare is something I can definitely relate to at the moment. The humidity in the heat waves we've been experiencing for the last few weeks have been absolutely brutal. It's just, I know everybody says it when, you know, other countries joke about how we complain as soon as it gets to 30 degrees, and we do. But, you know, you don't know heat until you've been in a English brick terrace house with no aircon. But also, it really is the humidity. It's just, it's like trying to breathe through a wet towel and trying to think with a piece of trifle in your brain. It's just awful. And to be honest, a deck like this is actually quite nice, because this particular deck, I've showed it recently before, and I think I said then in that video that I call this my M.R. James deck. Sorry to keep bringing him up so much this episode. I'm not obsessed, I promise. Yeah, I call this my M.R. James deck because it reminds me of bleak November days and spooky walks over misty moors. And I can't think of anything better to distract me from the current summer heat, to be honest, than thinking of bleak, misty moors in November. What a lovely cooling thought that is. So that's my prompt number 11, Humidity Nightmare, Murder of Crows Tarot. Prompt number 12, Swamp Murmur, a deck featuring murky greens, bayou vibes, or reptiles. Oh, I love a good swamp mystery. I love a good swamp horror. I thought that we didn't actually have swamps in the UK because they're very much, I think of America when I think of swamps. I don't think of the UK at all, but I did look it up and we do have swamps. So the difference apparently between swamps and marshes and bogs, just to get a bit nerdy, is it depends what's growing in them and around them and what type of water there are. So they are sort of whether they're freshwater or acidic or alkaline. Bogs don't have anything growing around them or in them. They can't. It's all dead, sort of decaying plant matter. That's what determines a bog, which is why I think we find bog bodies, because nothing can grow there. So bodies are preserved in, like, archaeologically found? No, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Ancient bodies are found in bogs because they're preserved, because nothing can grow there. And then marshes, you have a wetland environment where grasses and reeds and bulrushes and things like that grow, whereas swamps apparently tend to be wetlands that are surrounded by trees. And yeah, I definitely don't see many of them around where I live, but what we do have is the fens. So the fens, they are in lots of different places in England. They were created about 10,000 years ago originally, when Britain became an island because of the sea level rising. And we ended up with a lot of these sort of wetland environments along the coasts. But where I live, it came sort of all the way down the east coast through the Wash and quite far inland. So I actually don't live very far from where the fens used to be. But in the time of Cromwell, they drained most of the fens to make agricultural land, artificially drained them with like pumps and stuff. We do have some tiny areas of fenland that are preserved. I've got one not too far from me out in Cambridgeshire called Wicken Fen, where you can go and see what the actual fens were like. But I'm completely digressing. And the point was that I think the fens are just as mysterious as swamps. They have a lot of folklore. They are the home of the black shuck and the will-o'-the-wisps, the marsh gases. Or are they? Are they in fact spirits? Who knows? They've got a lot of myth and legend and folklore about them because, historically speaking, they were very inaccessible. They were quite cut off from the rest of the world. A lot of ancient traditions survived in the fenland that just didn't survive in other places because of how isolated they were. They were unnavigable to anyone but locals. That's why Hereward the Wake apparently stood off against William the Conqueror in the fens. Alfred the Great hid from the Vikings in the fens because they were quite unnavigable. So a lot of mystery still resides there. I am just so drawn to the Fens and their mysteries, because there's still a lot of mystery there. It's not very well covered. There's not a lot of information about them. It's starting to come out now, but obviously a lot of it was lost as well, unfortunately. Excuse me. But the deck I associate with the Fens is the Universal Folk Oracle. Now, the only reason for that is because the artwork just looks so reminiscent to me of the tall, swaying, often impenetrable grasses and rushes that you find in the Fens. And if I remember, I will insert a little video clip here of a visit I did recently to Flag Fen, which is drained fenland now, but obviously in ancient times it was waterlogged. And they have a mere that kind of has all these tall grasses and swaying bulrushes, so you can peep through a little hole in this bird hide and you can see what it would have looked like. And it's really actually intimidating. The grasses and sedge are just so impenetrable, but so mysterious as they just sway in the breeze, and you kind of wonder what on earth is in there hiding in there behind them. So I'll try and put that video clip in so you can see. But this deck, the Universal Folk Oracle, I really love this deck. I've done some incredible readings with it in really interesting places. I will have to take it out and do some more and actually record them for you guys. But you can see in so many of the cards, we've got these tall swaying grasses and reeds and creatures emerging from them and people emerging from them, and it's just like it really gives me and in some of them you've just randomly got like UFOs, which I love how perfect is that. I think that's brilliant. So I just feel like the energy of these cards and the depiction of all these kind of tall grasses and rushes and things like that, I don't know whether that's what they're meant to be, but it's just, that's how it speaks to me. That's what I see in these cards. And just the overall mysterious, hidden things kind of energy in the Universal Folk Oracle just speaks to me of the mysterious marshes of the Fenland. I love this artwork. The artist has done a tarot deck as well, and I was really excited to see this tarot deck, but I have to admit that when I saw some flip throughs of it, I just didn't connect in the same way that I did to this oracle, which was just an immediate, oh yes, this is for me, this is a forever deck. We're gonna be buddies. Yeah, I didn't connect to it in the same way, which is a shame, but I'll have to have a look at it again at some point and see. Sometimes I don't connect with decks to start with, and then I'll come back to it a year or so later and all of a sudden it'll click and I won't really know why. It's just, wasn't the right time for me, something similar. Sometimes we come back around and then we connect another time. So I'll have to have another look at that deck. But yeah, that's my Swamp Murmur, the Universal Folk Oracle. And that brings us to our final prompt number 13, and that is Blackout Curtains, a deck that is completely monochromatic or strictly black and white. And as you've probably already seen from the other decks I've shown, I am quite partial to a black and white deck. So there were a few I could have picked, but I chose this one very deliberately, the Clarity Tarot. This was originally a Spanish publication and called the Claridad Tarot by Belle Senley. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce her name. And in the Spanish version, you could get a black background with white print version, or a white background and black print version. In the UK version, the English version, sorry, I think you can only get the black with the white print. It is mass market though, it's published by Watkins, so it's not too expensive or anything like that. But the other reason I chose this for the Blackout Curtain is not just because it's black and white, but because this deck, it was specifically designed to really, really tap into your intuition. So it does have nods to the Rider-Waite, definitely, especially in the Major Arcana. But a lot of the cards, you could stare at them and think, well, I'm not really getting, the traditional Two of Cups or Ten of Swords or whatever from that, especially with the court cards, because they are renamed, which is normally a pet peeve of mine, but I actually don't mind it in this deck because I don't use this as an RWS. So the reason I wanted to choose it for Blackout Curtain is because I feel like it does kind of pull a curtain down, maybe put a little bit of a blindfold on you, over your prior knowledge of RWS, it makes you kind of not rely on your knowledge of the Rider-Waite Smith. So I have a tendency sometimes to do a draw, and then I'll just kind of go with the textbook. Okay, well, the Three of Cups means this, and the Four of Cups means that, and just not really tap into the cards with my intuition. Sometimes I have to really try and really make myself try and do that. And sometimes that is all I want to do, and that's completely fine, completely valid. But because of the way I use the tarot sometimes in, you know, like haunted locations, using the straight up RWS definitions really doesn't work very well in those situations sometimes. And it really, the whole point of me using those cards in that situation is to access my intuition. It's less about the cards and more about tapping into my subconscious. So this is a really great deck for that, because it's been designed with that in mind. Even the guidebook, I mean, it does give sort of meanings for the major arcana, but once you get to the minor arcana, it's just like a running narrative. You don't have a page per card or anything like that like we're used to. You kind of have to read into the cards a lot more, and also I find it best with this deck to pull more than one. You can pull one card, but I think it works better when you've got a few cards in sequence and you kind of read how they interact with how the images interact with each other, which I know you do that with normal tarot as well, but I just think it works particularly well in this deck. So I feel like this is almost, using this deck is kind of putting a blackout curtain down across your textbook knowledge. It's like having a bit of a tarot blindfold on to distance you from the traditional textbook meaning of the RWS, and almost forces you to access your intuition more, which sometimes is absolutely not what I want at all. And I can understand that this would not be a deck for a lot of people because of that, and I get it. And you know, some days that's exactly how I feel as well. But you know, I'm contrary, and I like to I access the tarot in different ways on different days depending on what mood I'm in and what I'm doing. And I do find this is a really good deck for accessing your intuition. If you, especially like, I bought this because I was struggling with that, and I found that this deck helped me because I didn't really have any choice. The normal cues from the RWS system just kind of aren't there a lot of the time. And because they are so stripped back, like, oh, I think this is probably one of my favourite cards. Look at that, Guide of Earth. Truth be told, I don't even know which court that is, and it doesn't really matter because I wouldn't read it that way. I would just read it in conjunction with which cards came either side of it or around it, and what I was asking, and just what my subconscious said at the time, which sometimes is annoying doing that, but I find it sometimes actually a relief, because I'm not even trying to kind of conjure up all the different symbolism of the 78 cards. That's all kind of brushed aside, and I can just reach down in the darkness of my intuition and see what rises up and bubbles to the surface without any of the bias or expectation of the traditional Rider-Waite Smith meanings. And I think that there is definitely a place for that. Not for everybody, but there is definitely a place for it. So that is my final deck of these 13 prompts, the Clarity Tarot for Blackout Curtain. And that is going to wrap up my VR to the Whimsy Witches hashtag Summerween decks, and what an awesome tag it is. I would love to see other people doing this. Do we still, I mean, this is my first VR, so I hope it went okay. But also, I when I watched VRs originally, people used to sort of nominate other tarot tubers to pick up this tag, and I haven't seen anybody do that for a while. Is that still a thing? Do we still do that? Has that gone out of fashion? Can viewers, if anybody's watching this and you want to nominate your favourite tarot tubers and creators to do this tag, maybe you could do it in the comments? Is that something we do? I don't know. Let me know. I'd be really interested. But thank you so much to the Whimsy Witch for creating this tag. Obviously, I will, of course, link their original video down below, and I do recommend you go and check it out because it's fantastic, and I was so excited, and I'd love to see more. Thank you for hanging out with me here while I nerded out about all my lovely decks and about Halloween and Summerween in general. I hope you're all well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.